So hello everyone and welcome to tonight's presentation of Teaching Drama Online, which is presented to you by the American Alliance for Theater and Education. And it is led by me. I am Rosalind Flynn, your online workshop creator and presenter. And you'll see some official looking kind of pictures there on your screen. But this is what I really look like right now. Different top on, a little bit of a different season, but this is me. I live in Silver Spring, Maryland, and I'm broadcasting to you from my computer here at home. And the content of today's session basically is made up of what I've learned over the past 5 years of doing online workshops for teachers and various presentations and meetings. And so I put together this presentation to share with you what I consider to be the best practices. Now, there could be other ones out there, and if you have any, it's great if we can use this time to share them as well, but basically this is based on my experiences. So just to give you a sense, these are the places that I've done presentations for in terms of online workshops, and you'll see there are a variety of states. You don't have to read them all there, but it has been something that has been greeted pretty enthusiastically. And also, I've used it at 2 different universities that I work at, and at the Catholic University of America, where I'm employed full-time, I've done it as online classes, occasionally 1 or 2 a semester, and this has been great, especially when we had a huge snow a couple of years ago and the university was closed. It was not a problem for my classes because we just met online. And then last spring, I really had a great experience for the University of Richmond doing an entire semester's course, completely online, called Using Drama Across the Curriculum. My audiences for this have been, and I thought this would be good to clarify this for you because I haven't done this with high school students or young students. It's always been for teachers and professional development workshops, for the students that I teach, for teachers in continuing education courses, and most recently I trained 4 or 5 teachers in Tennessee on how they could become leaders of the arts integration work that I do, and therefore we can have some sustainability in the community there without them having to continually bring me down to work with their teachers. So here's the content that we're going to cover tonight. First of all, I need to go over with you the format and features of this online meeting software. And then I'll start going through by sharing and in some cases demonstrating what I found to be the best practices in teaching drama online. And then I've tried to build in within this workshop ample opportunities for comments and questions from you. So we're going to begin with the demonstration of the format and features. The basics. So in terms of the online meeting software, as you're experiencing, and perhaps for some of you tonight, or this is the first time and others have done it before, is basically that I have an account and my particular online software platform is WebEx. There are others, of course, but I use WebEx. And so we schedule the date and time of the workshop, and then you receive a link to the meeting and a password. And it looks like this. In your particular case, I also included registration as being a part of it, seeing as I'm doing it for AATE. Sometimes it can be just where you just simply click on the link and then you arrive at the meeting site. One of the questions that arises a lot is, you know, do we have to have an account with the particular software? And the answer is no. And then, oh, are you going to do it on Skype? And the answer to that is also no. No need to Skype or set up any other kind of software communication like FaceTime or anything like that, because we've got it right here. So anytime I do a first session in this, whether it's for a graduate course or an online workshop for teachers, I've got to spend the first part familiarizing everyone with the features of the software platform. So we're going to do that now. And it basically consists of those 4 things that you see on the screen. We check the microphone and audio, which I've done a little bit with you already, and do some video checking and stream a video to make sure that's working. And so let's start with that here. So first of all, what you'll see on the screen is that anybody who has a microphone has the little microphone icon over to the right. And right now, all of the microphones are muted. If you want to speak, you need to unmute your microphone, or else if I ask you something and call you by name, I would unmute your microphone. We might try later on in the workshop unmuting everybody, and the only problem with that occasionally is that there are echoes. And so if I found that by muting everybody's microphone, then that's one way to get rid of the echoing, because that can be really hard to hear. Another solution that I found recently is the use of earbuds, so that what happens is you can be hearing me through your computer, but the reason for the echoes is that people will hear me come through your computer as well as their own, and so that's one solution there that has worked pretty well. And then there's also a video feature to this software, which you're seeing now, that because I'm on the video, and anyone who has a camera who chooses to use it, I can see you. We can all see you as well. So if you have a webcam, even if you choose to turn it off later on in the workshop, if you would turn it on now, it's interesting to see this particular aspect of the software. So what happens is you just click on the video camera icon next to your name, and then there's a way that we can all see a number of us at a time. So if you would do this now, if you would click on the icon in the upper right-hand corner of the video screen, as you see there, what happens is it'll take you to full screen mode, okay? So now if you look in full screen mode, generally what happens is if I don't have the microphone on, anybody who is speaking gets the big picture. So for those of you who have a webcam right now, would you give me a thumbs up if I'm in the big picture at the top of the screen? Okay, great. And so what happens is you can see 5 or 6 people. Now at the very bottom of the screen, if you run your cursor over the bottom of the screen, there are some arrows there, so you can see how you can see the other people who aren't on the screen. So if you click on those arrows, okay, so for me, Julia, Christy, Les, Lily doesn't have a webcam, but I can see Margaret, and now I can see Margaret Peacock, Rachel Tallery, and Tara, last of all. So just experiment with that for a little bit, and you'll get to see how you can actually see a whole bunch of people at the same time. Okay, would you give me a thumbs up if that worked for you? Okay. Now, in order to exit the full screen mode, you should look at the top right, and you'll see just an X, and if you hold your cursor over that, you can go back to the slide screen. So these are just a couple of slides of what I just showed you there. So it's a way you could see a lot of different people, and a way to go back. Okay. Whenever, on my screen, whenever the chat icons turn orange, that means I know that somebody is sending me a chat message, and sometimes it's just to me and sometimes it's to everybody. Okay. And Chip Rome says, not seeing these icons on the iPad. That's interesting. I haven't had that happen before. I'm not quite sure if there's a solution to that. Huh. Okay. So let me keep on going here. The next thing that I need to make sure to do is to ensure that the videos will stream. And this software I think is really great because it gives me an easy way to show you videos that generally go through pretty much immediately. And so, but before we do that, let me run you through a couple of things. So first of all, make sure that you've exited full screen mode and you're back and looking at the slides here. So you should see a slide right now that says, how does the online meeting software work? And in the middle of the screen, let's try one now. Okay. And then what happens is, but before we do that, I need to make sure you know how to raise and to lower your hand. And so if you look over to the right-hand side of the screen, what you'll see is that there's an icon for you, okay? And it is pictured on the screen here now. So see if you can locate that, and if you can, everybody raise your hand and keep it raised. And on my computer, what I hear is, and you might be hearing it through my computer, a kind of a noise. And that is also a way for you to get my attention if I'm going on and something you really want to ask that you need to ask right away. You can raise your hand, but it's also a great way for me to just double check that things have finished streaming. And so therefore, if you would now lower your hand, because all you have to do is click on it again to lower your hand, what I'm going to do is show you a video in the screen, and then when it's finished playing for you, please raise your hand, because you'll notice that it has a different speeds for different people of playing. The video is only about 30 seconds long. Okay, great. So that is, it's pretty rapid for everybody. Chip, I think what you're finding is that the iPad is not going to show you the videos, so you may want to go back to the computer you were on originally, and then we won't get the pleasure perhaps of seeing your face in the video screen, but it might be better for you to be able to see the videos. So that's a good idea? Okay. All right. So you won't miss too much as you're making the transition. Okay, let me just check one more chat message there. Margaret Peacock says she doesn't have a hand icon. Okay. I think that you'll still be okay with that because it will be I think that the videos are running reliably, so that's the main reason I've been using the hand icon. All right, so if everyone would make sure to lower your hands in case we need them in the future. Okay. The other thing that everyone might want to do is go under the chat box and click on, right now, most people are sending the messages to me privately, but if you do the drop-down menu, what you'll see is that you can choose to send it to everyone or to all participants, and that can be helpful for people who are giving helpful hints, like Hillary says that Cisco Jabber app might help him use the iPad. Okay. And the other question is there a way for participants to see others raising their hands? That's actually a great question, Hillary. I'm not quite sure I know the answer because I've never been a participant in this. I've only ever been the presenter. So let me ask right now, raise your hand if you have been able to see other people's hands raised. Okay, no, so it doesn't look like anybody else but me can see it. Maybe that's something that WebEx has to work on. All right, let's keep on going with this here. And I wanted to find out a little bit more about you, about who's here. And so in order to do that, I wanted to ask you to respond using the chat box, and many of you are already good at that. The one trick sometimes that people have a little bit of trouble with is the idea that you actually type in the box beneath the word send to. And then if you'll make sure to send it to everyone or to all participants, and in order to send it, basically you type and then you hit enter. And this is what we're looking for, is to please tell us where you are located and what you do in relation to teaching drama. And you'll notice that your name appears in the chat box, so you don't have to type your name. We're just mainly interested in where are you located and what is it that you do in relation to teaching drama. Okay, so we have Hillary, wow, Brooklyn, New York, theater director and applied theater practitioner. Douglas in Fairfax, full-time high school theater instructor. Diane Carr for EDTA, and she definitely supports thousands of theater teachers. I can attest to that. Rebecca in Pennsylvania, wow. Chair of Arts and Academics. Julia in South Florida, high school drama teacher and ambassador to the Folger Shakespeare Library. And Lily, education and outreach. Afla Repertory Theater in Sarasota. Lily, I tend to do a lot of work in Sarasota. Maybe we should get together next time I'm there. Margaret in Wesley Chapel, North Tampa. High school theater. Rachel just moved to Springfield, Missouri, and currently an independent teaching artist and arts integration consultant. Rachel, I've also done a lot of work in Springfield, Missouri, so we should chat sometime. Tara Smith in Raleigh, North Carolina, grades 9 through 12, rural public school, minority school. Margaret. Grad student, oh, we love to get grad students at USF Tampa. Oh, that's great, integrating drama in elementary curriculum. And Kathy, she wrote to me privately, but I'll read it to you so that you can hear that she's in Cincinnati, Ohio, and was director of theater arts at Xavier University and integrated arts at Xavier. Jen, in my own hometown of Silver Spring, and education program manager at Imagination Stage. Christy from Northern New York, teaching theater. Okay. And Jen is also a C-Ray alum. Good. EDTA member. Terrific. Okay, great. Thank you so much. And so what we want to say is welcome to everybody. If anybody hasn't entered their information, you can still take the time to do that while we're going through the next couple of slides. This is, in my opinion, the 21st century version of passing notes in class, because as some of you may have figured out, that you can change the drop-down menu and change it from me and change it from everyone and send a note to somebody else in the class. But also, if you are the presenter in this particular software, you have the choice of blocking this feature. And sometimes if you're with a group that really, really knows each other well, that might be a good thing to do. So in terms of learning online, there are a couple of ways that it can happen. So groups assembled together in one location, they'll have an LCD projector and they'll project the screen, project the slides and the videos onto a screen, and then they're all together in one room. And when I work with them that way, the video camera is on them, and so I can see them as a group, and they are all watching me. So let me go down and put this one here so you can see a little bit better. These are teachers in Kodiak, Alaska, who took a picture of themselves for me so that I would be able to have a copy of this and see what they looked like during the online workshop. Another way that this has worked is there was a client I had in Nebraska, and they had two different sites that were about a 2-hour drive apart. So they had two sets of people in two different locations who were watching the same presentation. And then, of course, as you're experiencing right now, individuals at separate computers anywhere in the world can connect to a live presentation. And so that's how I've designed this particular workshop to make sure to accommodate for that kind of learning. All the online workshops can be recorded, and the nice thing about this is that, like, for example, suppose somebody who had registered for this today couldn't be with us, well, they can get a copy of the recording. They get the recording link. AATE is also going to make the links available for a fee to some people who perhaps couldn't be with us live, as we say. Here, what we're doing is a live workshop. It's not face-to-face, but it is in real time. And so the other benefits of recording also are in terms of courses. If you're teaching a course, whether it be a course at a university or a multi-session course, if for some reason somebody has to miss the session, they don't get just the notes from what happened. They get to experience precisely what happened. Now, of course, they can use a little slider at the bottom of the screen and fast forward through the parts that they would like to skip, so they might take a little less time going through it than we are. But the recordings can be pretty valuable and useful. So what happens is, after the presentation, participants can receive a link to the recording, which looks like this. It comes in the email. In terms of this being my server, I don't keep the recordings forever, and so whatever AATE decides to do regarding the length of time this recording will be available, that will be communicated within the email about this as well. Another capability of the WebEx software that I found to be really useful is that I can share my desktop. And what that means is that I will go out of this particular screen that you're seeing, and you will see whatever is on my screen. So that can be a little bit challenging to make sure that I haven't left up, you know, like embarrassing pictures or a boring document. So, for example, I can take participants directly to any website. In this particular case, I am going to take you to my website. And so I'll show you what this looks like. So the screen changes a little bit. You can still hear me. And now what happens is you'll see whatever I'm seeing on my desktop. So this is my website. And if suppose we were talking about curriculum-based readers theater, I can take you to this page, and I could show you there's a script library, and I could show you that the kinds of scripts that we have. There are some math scripts, there are some English language arts scripts, but what might be more interesting to you all is that there are theater scripts. And sometimes what will happen is people will say, oh, I can't see it that well. Can you zoom in so I can actually make it bigger and let you see it perhaps a little bit more clearly? So I can take you there. I could also take you to my blog and show you that there's a recent posting about a kid who did some really cool work. And so it's a cool way that you can share other websites aside from what we're doing right now. And let me go back and see, there's a chat message here, and see if someone has a question about this. Okay, so Rebecca says she's been working on Readers Theater, so we should definitely be in contact with one another. Another way of sharing the desktop, it goes like this, and it is that I can share a document that I'm working on. So let's try something here. Let me go back for a minute, and I'm going to unmute your microphones, and let's just see what happens in terms of whether there's a lot of echoing, because I'll show you how if I unmute you, I might be able to get you to give me some answers to this question that's on the screen right now. So let me go out of here for a sec. Okay. So let's try this. And so I'm going to unmute you, and that will mean I can hear what comes out of your microphones. And we'll see if it doesn't. There we go. Okay, so the question is edit a document while people are actually talk right now, you don't have to say ambient noise. Is it possible for you to
Okay.
go back here? Chip, I'm going to mute you for a sec, okay?
All right.
No, I didn't. Oh, I guess it is. Huh. No, I don't think it is. Maybe somebody else is. All right, let's see what's happening in the chat box here. Okay, so I did, it says, Chip's mic is making no noise. Check that again. Okay, so I did both of those. Okay, that seems to work for me. So, All right, why don't we do this instead of this part of the functionality? So, why teach drama online? Yeah, it is better now, Margaret, you're right. Okay, so if everyone would use the chat box there, I will take a look at that and show you how you can edit a document by using that. Okay, so I'm just taking a few ideas for people, enables everyone to participate. Okay. Helped during times of illness. Okay. Gathering. All right, so basically all I really want you to see is that another really great use of this software, depending on what type of drama you want to be working with, is it would enable you to get ideas for let's say, for scripts, or get input from other people on a document. And so that is just a quick example there, and I think given what we've just experienced, it's probably best to use the chat box, because what happens for me is I can see the chat box in a little box over to the right of my screen, and so I can actually read what people are writing, and I can add that to the document. So let me go back now to the screen here. Okay, looks like somebody has a question. So Julia, do you want to speak the question?
Sorry, what was, did I have my hand raised?
Yeah, I see your hand raised.
Oh, I don't know how that happened. No, I did not want to speak. I've been playing with this. But
Okay, I'll read you.
Okay.
All right, Rachel Jameson, your hand is raised too. Do you have a question?
Yeah. When you go to viewing your desktop, I can't seem to find then the chat box to continue typing. And so I wasn't able to respond.
If you lay, this is the way it works for me, and others you could weigh in on this. If you hold your cursor over the top of the screen, there's a little kind of a half oval that comes down. If you lay the cursor on that, it usually stretches out, and then it shows a chat box. Is that the way it worked for other people? Would you raise your hand if that's how it worked for you, that you were able to use it? Okay, great. Pretty much everybody is raising their hands that that's how it worked for them. So Rachel, let's try that so that you can see what it looks like. Okay, I'll go back to share my desktop, and then you'll see the little thing at the top, kind of lay your cursor, and it should drop down. So let's just try that.
Oh.
Did that work for you?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, great, great. Good. Okay, so as it says on the screen, I can bring a document up, and you can actually participate in the editing of it. It's also a way, if you have students who have papers or presentations, that they can, you can also do something that's called pass the ball to a participant, allowing that person to control what's on the screen. So therefore, students can share their own presentation, or attendees can share something that they've done in terms of a PowerPoint or a video, etc. If we do have time, we will try this later on in the session. But right now, I'm going to move ahead on this. And if you just make sure that you would lower your hand unless you have a question. Alexis Okay, good. All right, good. So, but again, if a question occurs to you as we're going along, that's the beauty of this software. Just raise your hand. I'll unmute you, and you can ask me or ask us. Okay, so in terms of online learning goals, as you've already said in the chat box there, it's basically one of the great things about it, even though I really firmly still believe in the total value of theater as having always been about individuals who are gathered in the same place at the same time. So I definitely believe in that, and there's no way that I would ever argue that online learning should replace that wonderful, valuable experience of interacting together in theater. There are things that can be done online in terms of theater instruction, and there are ways that it can reach a far greater number of people than simply face-to-face instruction. And so what I believe are the goals, what I've tried to make the goals in my work is that I want to use this so I can provide the information both visually and by auditory means, and to involve you, participants, as much as possible so that you're not merely sitting and watching a computer screen, because you can see how this could easily turn into just a lecture or just a presentation. So if you look closely on the screen, you'll see one of my students from last year, and he was doing a drama strategy called Character Interviews, and that was the particular costume he came up with. So right now he has control of the screen, and he is leading us through what he did with his students and sharing the particular costume prop that he came up with. Also to give you the opportunity to pose questions to both me and to other attendees, if that is something that seems to come up and there's a level of expertise that I can't respond to, other people in the group could. And therefore motivating discussions among participants and allowing you to share your own work. We won't be doing that tonight in an introductory session, but you can see on the screen there, if you look at that photo, what you'll see is the man on the top right there, he is the teacher, and he is sharing on the left-hand side a reader's theater script that he and his class created and wrote together, and he videoed it and is sharing the performance of it. And so it's not just me sharing what I've done in my work, there's a way for other people to do the sharing as well. So now I'm going to go through what I consider to be best practices for teaching drama online, and I guess we should call this is just a preliminary list, because I'm sure as time goes on there'll be much more to add to this. But in terms of what I feel are best practices, the first one is to use a high quality online software product. And I did a search the other day as I was putting this presentation together, and the ones that you see on the screen are the ones that this one particular site rated as the top 6. And I obviously am using the Cisco WebEx software. I have had some experiences where I have used other software in different presentations, and I found that it lacked a lot of things, like, for example, some of them you couldn't show a video and stream it as quickly as I did for you just before. Every time I would swap between different screens, this lady's voice would come on, and it just didn't have all the features that I felt really were worthwhile. And so what's also great about the software is that as time goes on, it gets less and less expensive. So I think, like, what I pay for a year's subscription, and in paying for that, I have access to this 24/7, so I can do it anytime. I pulled it up a couple of times today to test things before I went on live with you tonight. I have done it as if I had a document to edit with somebody, I'll say, look, let's just go on my online software and we can do that. I've done birthday parties for children and nieces and nephews around the country where everybody signs on, and we show funny pictures from the past and everybody can see each other. So there's a lot of uses for it. But I would really strongly encourage you that if it is something that you want to do, make sure there's a good functionality in whatever you or your organization uses, because without it, it's not as satisfying. Next is to collect lots of photos of the drama work in action. So, for example, I can tell you and really, try to explain in words that, yes, young people can perform readers' theater with energy and enthusiasm, or I can show you a picture of it. And I can try to make the case that, of course, high school students will participate in a particular kind of classroom drama, or I can show you. I can try to explain to teachers that, yes, even though Tableau is a still image, it still can convey lots of energy and movement, but I think a picture tells it much, much better. I can be going on and on about students and saying students, students, students. And if I show the pictures, though, without even needing to ask me, that teachers or anybody who is watching will understand that, yes, guys will do the drama activities because they'll see it in the pictures. And I can say for sure that drama works with all ages and populations. But again, the pictures say it so much better than if I just make that declaration. And if you want to get a little bit more into the realm of theater, I could tell you about a variety of ways to give focus on stage, but the photos do a far better job. And I can tell you that found objects can increase student actors' creativity. I could assure you that it's possible to stage a theater production with an extremely large group of elementary school students, but seeing is believing. And also that simple costumes and a backdrop actually can make for compelling visual images on the stage. And so now what I'd like to do is stop for a moment and ask you if you have any questions, comments, or observations that you want to make to me or to the others. So if you'd use the chat box, we'll go there. Okay, so Christy's question is, how do you handle permission for these photos? I have a form that I have from one of my publishers that I have changed over time, and if I want to use the photographs in something, especially if that's something that would be shown online or that would be available online, I just ask the teachers to get me the permissions. And in some cases, I have gotten permission to video in exchange for a fee. So when the videos and photos are so valuable to me, I'll say, look, I'll come in and do this, and the only thing I want in exchange is to have the permissions and to get the permissions signed. And the teachers are usually very good about that, and will make sure that if there's a student who didn't get permission, that that student is still participating, but perhaps on the perimeter, so that they're not in the photos or they're not in the part of the video. Okay, let's see. Can I ask you how much your yearly subscription is? Yes, right now I pay about $400 for a year. I have a feeling that might go down because it has gone down significantly each year that I've done this. I also believe that there's a way that you can use some of these software programs. You can pay for a one-time usage of them. I haven't looked into that because I haven't needed to, but that's something that would be worth checking out. Any other questions, especially regarding the use of photos or anything else that's occurred to you? Okay, I'm going to keep going. A couple of questions. Do they know that the sessions online will be recorded? Hillary, I'm not quite sure what you mean, who they are. Do they know, meaning the people in my photographs or people in my videos? The children, yes, I made that really clear in the wording. And actually, if you were to email me, I would be happy to send you a copy of the permission document that I use. I basically, yeah, I do make sure that it's online, but I always, that they understand it could be online, but you'll notice that I don't name any of the areas that I'm taking the photos from. I'm not telling you which school and which school system or even which state these photos came from. And Douglas, what are the most difficult adjustments? Do you mean the difficult adjustments for me as the presenter or as the teacher of this online? Online versus live. Yeah, well, I actually will cover that a little bit more later in the process, but one of the things that's hardest about this is to understand that you actually all are with me, even though I'm not getting that kind of feedback that you get when you're with people, where you get, you know, the smiles and the nods and the laughter, or that kind of sense that, yes, the group is with me. So I have to just make sure that I feel confident that you are with me, and that's come over time from having done it a number of times, that I think, okay, yeah, I really do believe that they're with me. So that's probably the most difficult adjustment. The other one is the amount of time that it can take to put things together so that it makes sense logically to you, but also goes in an order that I think works for me and helps me know what do I want to say, in which order, and how can I best present it as something that's visual and auditory. And in terms of the permissions document, I'm going to ask you all, anyone who wants it, just write to me and ask for it, then I'll be happy to send it to you. Okay. All right, thank you. Kathy says we're with you. Hooray! Okay, the next is to collect lots of videos of the drama work in action. And so I just want to show you a contrasting example here, because you certainly can use this screen that you have here to provide examples of written instruction. But watch the difference between this. I'm going to show you that there is an activity that you can do. It's a drama skill builder or warm-up, and it's called Show Me Characters. And I can put the directions on the screen here. But they don't all fit on one screen, so now I have to show you the next screen. And then there's a final screen. So now we've got 3 screens that have a lot of text on them. And I probably showed them way too quickly for everybody to read them, but that's okay, because what I want to demonstrate through this is that I can show you a video clip of the Show Me Characters drama warm-up, and I can show you the same idea far more quickly and effectively. So let's watch this. And once again, what I'm going to ask you to do is that once it's finished playing for you, if you would please raise your hand if you have the hand icon. Oh, the visual, but the internet connection is slow, and that, yeah, the videos seem to be frozen on Show Me Characters. I think that, again, would be one of the drawbacks of online instruction, is that if the internet connection is slow, it can cause a problem. Most people nowadays are able to get it, but I will have to apologize to you. But I will tell you later on in this presentation, I'm going to show you where I have all these videos stored on Vimeo, and you can go back and watch them. I'm purposely showing you some short ones now. Okay, so if you would lower your hand, unless you have a question. Okay. All right, all hands are lowered. Good. I'm going to go back to this here. And so one way that I think that videos are so useful in the online instruction is that it is, to me, the best way that I can show or demonstrate, show what I might do or demonstrate if I was in a live class or workshop. And the one benefit of it is that then you get to see the kids doing it. So it gives you an opportunity to discuss, like, for example, in this Show Me Characters, did everybody stay perfectly still and maintain their concentration? No. But is that pretty much what it can look like the first time you work with elementary school kids doing that activity? Yes. Okay. All right. So one of the thing that I thought that I would ask you now is to think about your own drama work, and if you would fill in the blank on this using your chat box, videos of what would enhance your online instruction? So take a moment, and is there anything that you're thinking that, oh, wow, if I were going to teach this particular topic online, I would need a video of, Great. Side coaching, narrative pantomime in real time. Oh, guest artists, yes, definitely. Stage combat. Movement exercises. I could always benefit from seeing the exercise as opposed to reading about it. Statues for Julius Caesar monologues. Definitely the rehearsal process. Drama instructors in action. That's actually one of the things that I think that this online work is going to do is that hundreds of years from now, people will be able to see us in action in the way that we cannot see people that you read about in the literature like Caldwell Cook and Peter Slade and Winifred Ward. So yes, definitely. Theater of the oppressed techniques, definitely. I would love to see that in action. Geometry lessons, translations, rotations, reflections. The scenes from different theatrical time periods, yeah, that would be great to show, or to take people to the students to a website to actually watch the videos. Wow, these are fantastic. You can read them all on the screen too there. Great. Morale techniques. Or I'll be great with this. Examining sessions when things go horribly awry. That would be a great thing to have, and I might have some of those, and I may incorporate that very idea into future instruction, Hillary. Classroom management. If they're going awry, you're doing it right. Good. Okay, so I'm going to show you now another video clip. Because one of the things that I've found in my work that is very useful is that it demonstrates how drama instruction looks with real students. And so sometimes, though, with these drama, these videos, it's great to give people something actually to look for. So I thought, and listen for in this case, that if you'd watch this, it is to note the language of instruction. People who haven't been able to get the streaming videos, if while we're doing this, if you want to try on the internet and go to the Vimeo site, Vimeo, search for my name, Rosalind Flynn, and you should be able to bring up this very video, and it's about a 2.5-minute long video. So I'll have you watch it, and as you're watching, listen to the language of instruction, and let's just build on what somebody else said in the chat box there to see how that perhaps affects classroom management. So once again, once it's done, if you would raise your hand and let me know that it's finished streaming for you. Okay, so again, now I did a little bit of front loading with you about getting you to listen particularly for the language of instruction. And so if you just use your chat box, is there anything that you noticed about the language of instruction that you think affected the success of the lesson, or perhaps classroom management? Ah, the video froze for some people. Okay, good preparation. The drama will begin. Student facilitated. Yes, my drawing the teachers in. Checking in with the students. Can we all agree to pretend that Mr. Tyler will be the teacher? Good. Yeah, so all of this is, again, one of the ways that I found, especially the chat box, is really useful to make sure that people feel involved in the instruction. So again, it's not me just presenting things, but you get some feedback from the participants, especially once the video is working. Okay, so let's continue a little bit further here because I am watching the clock. And one of the things that I would like to make sure to point out to you is that notice that these video clips that I'm showing you are not Hollywood production quality. I do use iMovie, and I'll put in things sometimes like the caption that I put there for the student when I figured you probably wouldn't understand what he was saying. But the videos do not have to be perfect. I think that's one of the things that YouTube has done for our society, is that we're much more tolerant of just, you know, here's a video, because we like to see it in action as opposed to just read about it. And Tara's saying, yes, that she records with her smartphone, and that is a great thing to be able to do. Another best practice is to pause frequently to request participant involvement. So as I was saying just before, it shouldn't just be about me lecturing to you and doing a presentation on how to teach drama or particular methods of drama teaching, but it should be a presentation in which you feel that you have some way of participating. And so therefore the chat box is a great way to be able to do it. There's something about, even if we weren't getting all the feedback from the microphones, people still aren't used to just plain talking to their computers. Maybe that will change as time goes on, but I found the chat box to be a great way to get involvement of participants. Another way is to ask a question that everyone can respond to with a raised hand. And so, for example, if I ask this question, and if the answer applies to you, would you raise your hand? Have you ever directed an educational theater production? Okay, great. And then another way to increase participation is to ask people by name. So for example, if your hand stayed up, I'll say, Hillary, could you name for us a recent production, or the most recent production you can remember, educational theater production you've directed? Hillary, I've got your microphone on, so we can just hear you.
Oh, hi. I directed a theater and education piece that was a response to Memphis the musical for 5th graders in a charter school.
Cool. Okay. Christy, what is an educational theater production you've directed?
We just finished a project because I teach in a mainly military district. We wrote a piece called In My Shoes that looks at being the teenager of a soldier.
Oh, cool. And another hand that's still raised. Rachel, what have you directed?
I recently directed Haroon and the Sea of Stories with shadow puppetry and projection at elementary school.
Very cool. Okay. So all I'm trying to do, demonstrate for you there is that you're much more likely to get a verbal response if you call the person by name. Okay, let's see. Another best practice. Consider whether there are other ways to prompt participant involvement. And so I do have one way that works pretty well, and I'm going to ask you to go into full screen mode so that you all, everyone who has a webcam, can participate in the gestures test. And so what will happen is if you don't have a webcam, you'll get to watch it in action, okay? And just remember that to see additional attendees, click on the small arrow beneath the small videos. So if you'll go into the full screen mode there, and I'm going to ask you to take the gestures test, and by gestures I'm going to say some words or phrases, and I'm going to ask you to communicate what I'm saying through gestures alone, no sounds, okay? So you might want to adjust your screen on so we can see you better. So what would be a gesture for come here? Good idea. What are you talking about? Look over there. Talk to the hand. Be quiet. Maybe, so-so. Make a toast. Okay, so that's just to show you that there are ways that certain things do work on the screen, getting a lot of people in there. And I always like to end with the make a toast one because, and if you'll go out of full screen version right now, I'll tell you one of my favorite stories is I was working with students in Idaho and I said, make a toast, and they went like this. Let me see if I can do it right so you can see it. Like they were putting the toast in the toaster. So it just gave me a little information about the particular community I was working in. Okay, so another thing is in terms of best practices to carefully plan all the slides that you show. So it's great to incorporate visuals into the slides. It just makes a difference, either the clip art kind of things or the arrows or certainly the photographs. And slides that use a minimum amount of text because different senses compete, and so therefore if there's too much text on the slide, that is going to trump anything that I'm saying or somebody else is saying because people really can't read all that text and listen to what I'm saying at the same time. This is a basic practice of instruction, but I would imagine that many of you have been in circumstances when somebody puts a slide up on the screen and there's so much text on it that either you have no idea what they said or were saying, or else they were reading the whole thing to you and then you thought, well, why in the world are they reading the whole thing to me? So you want to try to minimize the text and just get the important pieces up there. For courses, and by that I mean, you know, multi-session courses on that you're leading in teaching drama, I like to borrow ideas from the flipped classroom, the idea that students can learn independently via online resources, and then when they come to class, you can use that time for the active learning and the problem solving. So for me in teaching drama, that's meant that I've created and posted a lot of videos of the drama work, and then I give the assignment that the students watch the videos, view them in advance of the class meeting. So I've got a lot of videos that are like 10 minutes long. That's not so bad to watch on your own, but you know, if you start using up 10, 20, 30 minutes of class showing the videos, then the time to actually practice the strategies or the activities really gets eaten up. But also the videos are able to enhance anyone's understanding of things that they have read, and looking at what the drama work they might do with students could look like. So this is, if you just go to Vimeo and you just do a search for my name, as I said earlier, what you'll find is that I have 33 different videos up there. Some of them don't have to do with teaching drama. They have to do with some things I've been doing for the university, but basically any video I've shown tonight and lots of other ones, certainly the longer ones, are there, and you can access them. In many cases you can embed them and sometimes even download them if you want. But they've been great, a great way to prepare the students for the work that we're about to cover in the next session, whether it be online or face-to-face. And then certainly to leave time for participants to ask questions and share ideas, or in multi-session courses to actually share their presentations, the videos, the PowerPoints, the photos that they've done with the drama in their own classrooms. So let me actually then enact that best practice and ask you whether there are any final thoughts that you have, any questions or comments that haven't been covered in the presentation so far. Oh, questions, why Vimeo versus YouTube? I have to tell you that I've come to like Vimeo a lot because it doesn't have as much noise on the right-hand side of the screen. There aren't all these other suggestions of videos. It's pretty much, I think, just a cleaner interface. So that's why I've started to go to that. I actually do have a bunch on YouTube as well. Anybody else have a question or comment? Oh yeah, I just heard that and I muted them. Okay, I don't see anything else coming through, so I'm going to keep on going. A couple of things I thought I would finish with are some lessons that I've learned, certain advantages of online over face-to-face. One of the things that I found is the difference between doing a participatory teacher workshop and doing it online, doing the same work online, is the videos and photos of the students. The teachers really love seeing the actual students in action. Certainly in terms of workshops that I would need to travel to, the cost is far lower, and it's much easier to schedule and then reschedule. You know, if I have booked a flight to come out to Arizona, I can't change that very easily. But if all of a sudden some meeting had to be held at the school and they want me to do the online workshop a week later, that's easy to do. It's a great way to front load before, if you have actual face-to-face meetings with people, and you can do this with them first and then you meet up with them. It can work great. And certainly, as you're experiencing right now, the convenience of learning from home, both for you and for me, because when we end this, we're home. The recordings, as I said earlier, are great. I'm going to do this presentation again a week from now at a Pacific time, and so I can revise the presentation. If there's anything that I felt was missing or perhaps overdone, I can go back into it and I can change it. And it's also helped me a lot in terms of my drama work, of really deconstructing the work. What is it that I do, in which order, and why do I do it that way, and what does it look like? That is a really, really great activity, exercise. And as I said earlier, I think it's also a way of leaving a trace, because these recordings can live on far beyond a time when I'm actually working or perhaps even living. Disadvantages, the technological glitches, as some of you have experienced tonight. They're getting fewer and farther between. A lot of times in the past, people used to get knocked off of the workshop, and then they'd have to, sign on again. Sometimes things don't run as smoothly as they want, and that's still got to do with all sorts of internet connections and different computers, etc. So that is a disadvantage. Incorporating participation, as we said earlier, can be challenging. And certainly the personal interaction, although I'm, from you all, theater people, I'm getting it a lot in the chat message there. So a couple of things that have come up. A question: when you're designing a whole semester, how many in-between assignments do you have before a class? My classes generally meet once a week, and I usually will do something like, for example, say watch these videos, comment on them on, let's say, Blackboard or on a wiki that I've set up. And then when we meet a week later, or in the online class that I did for the University of Richmond, we met every 2 weeks. So they had a decent amount of time in between to get their assignments together. And in that case, I didn't have any written assignments. It was all you had to show the work that you were doing with students, and the teachers loved that aspect of the online work. Please let us know when and where the next presentation of this will be. It's a week from tonight, and it's 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, so that it's 7 o'clock Pacific Time. Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, then I'm just going to ask you to just leave one final comment in the chat box of anything that you have enjoyed or anything new that you learned from tonight's presentation, so that AATE can see that this was time well spent. And then that brings us, we're just about ready to sign off. So if you would give us, what shall we say, a parting shot, or if you'd like to talk, I can unmute you. Just raise your hand. There's my contact information. Like the videos. An intriguing new venue. I like that wording. Douglas? Yeah, video resumes are great. You're welcome. Thank you. Great. Well, you've got my email there, and I'm a very good pen pal. As long as you put something in the subject that lets me know it's safe to open, I would be happy to be a resource for you as you take this journey. See my instruction firsthand. If you go to that Vimeo site, you'll probably see way too much of me. Great, the WebEx capabilities. Any methodology books specifically for teaching theater? Douglas, we should talk about that, because I haven't yet found one that I think is good enough. Maybe you and I should write one together. Break legs, everyone? Have I used any other type of digital media to teach drama? I would have to say probably no. PowerPoints, videos? No, I haven't used any other. Okay. Online theater history class, great. Anywhere I can email you later. Absolutely, yeah, you've got my email address there. How long did it take me to prep for my first online class? Oh, I would say a good year or two. But that's because I kept making changes and learning. And back when I started doing this in 2007, it was way harder than it is now. So I would say probably right now with the kind of software, it probably a couple of months because it depends on how many videos and photos you already have, but it takes a lot of time to pull it together. But once you do, like for example, next week I don't feel like I have to do too much to get ready for the Pacific presentation because of the preparation I did for tonight. Okay, I'm going to keep this up for a little while so that if people who are still using the chat box can stay on. But thank you so much for attending the session, and thank you to AATE for sponsoring it. And really, if you enjoyed it, please help them spread the word. And you have Alexis's email, I'm sure. And if you have Twitter or Facebook or any kind of social media where you could spread the word, that would be great, because I think there's a great potential for this in our field, and it's great to know that other people are enthusiastic about it too. So I'm going to stay on and answer some questions, but if you have to go because there's something else you need to do, you can sign off, and I say farewell and thank you.